In remote regions of the planet, there are still peoples who are almost invisible to the rest of the world. They're tribes that preserve rituals, beliefs, and ways of life that challenge everything modern society sees as normal. Some of their practices might seem strange or even frightening to outsiders. Throughout this video, we're going to follow the trail of 13 of these communities and understand how they've managed to stay on the margins of our everyday life. Sentinelese tribe. In the Bay of Bengal, there's a tiny piece of land, North Sentinel Island, with less than 60 square kilometers, but surrounded by an aura of mystery. That's where the Sentinelese live, a people who chose to stay on the margins of the modern world, refusing any kind of contact. The Sentinelese have lived on the island for thousands of years. Even though the territory appears on the map as part of India, the government has never actually managed to establish itself there. In 1867, a shipwreck brought foreigners to the coast, and the encounter ended in conflict. For 3 days, the castaways tried to defend themselves from arrows shot from the beach. Decades later, the British came back, captured some of the inhabitants in 1880, and took them off the island. Away from home and without immunity to diseases, they died shortly afterward, and that episode strengthened the tribe's rejection of outside contact. In independent India, new expeditions tried to get closer, offer gifts, and start a dialogue, but never received a friendly response. Because of this, the government created an exclusion zone around the island to limit any approach by sea. The idea is to protect the Sentinelese people's health and culture and prevent curious outsiders from taking dangerous risks. Even so, some people have invaded the territory and disappeared. Meanwhile, the tribe continues hunting and fishing with bows and arrows, keeping a way of life that seems frozen in time. Deep in the forests of Papua New Guinea, the Yafi tribe lives surrounded by crocodile-filled rivers and almost no trace of modern life. In 1981, explorer Benedict Allen reached them. Injured, exhausted, and going through painful treatments, he insisted on staying and eventually was accepted. Over time, he began taking part in ancient rituals and learned the Yafit's secret: their incredible skill at climbing giant trees and the skulls they keep as a silent proof of each achievement, living on the margins of the outside world. In the southwestern region of Ethiopia, the Serma people live a life where the body itself becomes a language of identity. Among the women, lip plates are perhaps the most striking symbol. It all starts in youth, when the lower lip is cut to hold a small disc. Over time, it's replaced with larger plates that stretch the skin and become a visible sign of beauty, maturity, and social status within the community. In many cases, the size of the plate also plays a role in marriage negotiations and the value of the dowry. Some women even remove their lower teeth to fit bigger discs. Even so, this practice has been changing. Many young women prefer to avoid the pain and turn to other forms of decoration, like plates in the ears, white clay body paint, and crowns made of leaves and flowers. The Serma also express themselves through scarification and stick fighting. The scars carved into the skin act as records of experiences, courage, and belonging. The fights, held in the middle of the community, give young people the chance to prove their strength, earn respect, and attract potential partners. Together, the ornaments, marks, and rituals form a visual code that communicates who each person is and the role they hold among their own. Imagine living in a world where the floor is a boat deck and the horizon is the only fixed line. That's everyday life for the Mochan, known as the sea nomads. Their floating homes follow the currents, and their route depends on the wind, the tides, and the abundance of fish. They dive for food with incredible precision. They can see clearly dozens of meters below the surface and hold their breath for long minutes, as if their bodies were trained to belong to the water. Some have accepted Thai documents, but many prefer to keep moving between islands, guided by knowledge passed down through generations. But this way of life runs into new problems: mass tourism, reef destruction, immigration laws that demand defined borders, and property rules that don't consider people who move with the tides, putting more pressure each year on the future of the Mochan tribe. In the heart of Manu National Park in Peru lives the Quare tribe, a nomadic hunter people marked by a tragedy in 1894 that almost wiped them out. Since then, they've chosen to distance themselves from the outside world, strengthening their isolation to preserve their ancestral techniques for moving through the jungle and hunting small animals. Because they're highly vulnerable to diseases brought from outside, the Peruvian government enforces strict contact barriers to ensure this group's survival. This forced distance raises questions about the balance between protecting the Quare and respecting their autonomy. In the heart of the western Amazon lives the Salah tribe, almost invisible to the rest of the world. There are about 150 people, plus a small group that moves around the village, keeping alive a way of life that barely exists anymore. Among them, a quiet tension has emerged. Some dream of opening paths with other communities, while most prefer to remain isolated, protecting their autonomy. Their days revolve around hunting, guarding the borders, and the precise use of clubs and poisoned darts, skills passed down by the elders. At night, everyone gathers in the malokas, large shared houses where work, stories, and survival plans blend into the same space. It's in this environment that important decisions are debated, alliances are formed, and the tribe's future is shaped step by step, far from the eyes of the outside world. Have you ever heard of the Mercy tribe? In southern Ethiopia, near the border with South Sudan, this people lives among crops and herds, organizing daily life around the land and the animals. Behind their everyday tasks, there's a strong spiritual dimension. The Mercy revere Tungji, a celestial being imagined as a colorful bird shaped like a rainbow, a presence connected to rain and fertility. The one who leads the rituals is the Komaru, a mediator between the visible world and the sacred forces, responsible for asking for protection for the families, the cattle, and the crops, in a way of life far removed from Western customs. Very few people know this, but the small Akunu community in Rondonia is on the brink of disappearing. Only 4 people remain, along with their own language, Akunu, which holds this people's memory and worldview. A few decades ago, things were different. The population was larger until the 1980s, when a brutal clash with ranchers changed everything. Many Akunu were killed in a massacre tied to a land demarcation dispute, seen as a threat to farming and logging plans that would lose space with the creation of a protected area. Today, each survivor carries the weight of that history and the uncertainty of what can still be preserved. Cargo Cult Tribe. On remote Pacific islands, a Melanesian people live from fishing, small crops, and long conversations by the shore. For them, the sea provides for today, but the sky holds what may come. At the end of the 19th century, ships and later planes from colonial powers began to appear, loaded with canned food, fabrics, metal tools, and machines no elder could explain. To the islanders, that abundance seemed to come from another dimension, delivered by powerful beings who used the foreigners only as intermediaries. When the Western presence decreased and the arrival of goods became scarce, some groups decided not to wait in silence. They started repeating everything they remembered, clearing strips of land as if they were runways, raising wooden towers, simulating antennas, improvising headphones out of bamboo, organizing parades like soldiers in training. The idea was simple and profound. If they imitated the gestures of the outsiders, maybe the ships and planes would return. That's how what we now call a cargo cult was born. A portrait of how faith and cultural shock can blend when a society tries to understand, in its own way, the impact of the industrialized world. Imagine walking along the shores of Lake Toba in Sumatra and coming across the Batak people, heirs to a tradition that spans centuries. This Indonesian society carries a past marked by extreme rituals, like ceremonial cannibalism practiced on war prisoners and criminals, understood as a form of punishment and sacrifice. At the center of their worldview is animism. For them, rivers, stones, and mountains have their own spirit and can influence daily life. The ones who interpret these signs are the shamans, respected figures who lead ceremonies, try to ward off spirits seen as dangerous, make predictions, and prepare potions with mystical effects. Even though many Batak have moved into modern houses, part of their identity remains in the old elongated buildings, now open to visitors and used to present songs, dances, and stories. With a population in the hundreds of thousands, the Batak continue navigating between tradition and change without letting go of their bond with their ancestors. In a remote area of Papua New Guinea lives an enigmatic group known as the Skeleton Men. They cover their skin with designs that mimic bones, turning their entire bodies into a symbol of protection against evil spirits and other invisible forces. The custom has been passed down through generations and draws researchers and curious travelers. But there are still many questions about its origin, since records are scarce. Recent DNA analyses suggest the group may carry rare lineages, reinforcing its cultural value. At the same time, the harsh climate and low birth rate put the tribe at real risk of disappearing, increasing the pressure for more effective protection efforts. The future of this way of life depends on who, outside their world, is willing to see them and take action. Hunter Tribe. In the frozen expanse of Mongolia in Bayanoli Province, a group of Kazak hunters keeps a rare custom alive, training golden eagles for hunting. For more than 2,000 years, this knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation and is now recognized as intangible cultural heritage of humanity. It all starts when the bird is still young. The trainer chooses it from the cliffs, risking his own safety to find a promising chick with a steady, alert temperament. From there, man and eagle build an intense partnership, where every movement matters and survival depends on that shared trust in the middle of the wild landscape. Following their routine, it becomes clear that it's not just about catching prey, but about sustaining an entire way of life. In the far northeast of Siberia lives the Chuki people, also known as the Lora people, former inhabitants of the swamps. There are about 14,000 of them spread across frozen lands, divided into two ways of life that, at first glance, seem opposite but actually complete each other. On one side are the nomadic reindeer herders, always on the move. They set up and take down tents following the rhythm of migrations, traveling with the herds across frozen plains, rivers, and valleys. On the other side are the maritime hunters who stay in permanent seaside villages, navigating wooden boats covered in animal skins and living off marine hunting and fishing in waters almost always covered in ice. Despite their differences, both groups meet at the same table. Their diet is based on reindeer meat and fish, often eaten raw. Delicacies for them, and strange to us, include parts like freshly removed reindeer liver and heart, mixed with mashed roots and strips of raw meat. A simple, direct dish full of meaning for the community. The Chuki have a deep spiritual relationship with nature. For them, living and dying are stages of the same path, not opposites. Death is understood as a passage to another dimension, and the decision to end one's own life, in cases of severe illness or extreme frailty, can be made in dialogue with the family, as an act of dignity and collective care. Getting to know this people gives us a window into very different ways of organizing daily life and dealing with the body, time, and the end of existence. And this is only the doorway to understanding how their rituals, myths, and choices continue even today, to challenge the way the rest of the world sees what it means to live well.